Are we going straight to questions?
If you want to give an opening statement, I don't see that.
Well, this is a really exciting time for Nebraska softball. The talent that Jordy brings from an athlete's perspective is unmatched, right? But I think you just heard the human being that we're adding to this already really high character team. And the timing for her coming into this program, I think, is actually perfect. This culture is healthy. It's really healthy. It's vibrant. A lot of people have done a lot of work to get us here. We've had 2 really strong years on the field, and you add an arm like Jordy Bahl with the returners that we have that have had a lot of success on the field. It's an exciting time for Nebraska softball, and it's an exciting time for our staff and those that get to take the field with her.
Rhonda, you kind of touched on this in talking about her as a person, but you've known her since she was coming to camps, middle school, elementary school. So what's it like for you to watch her in that moment that you just did the last 10 minutes?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I was trying to remember, it was 12 or 13 when I first met Jordy, and I think I even heard about her before that. And the thing is yes, she's matured as a young woman, but she was that person then. I remember very distinctly one time her saying, "Coach, I can't come to this camp." She talked about her love and her affection for her brothers. That's really true. And they would take turns on whose turn it was to go to camp. And at one point in time, it was one of her brother's turn. She wasn't going to come to camp. And I always just had so much respect for how she was always so other-centered, whether it was her family or a teammate or, somebody even outside of that. So I was so blessed to have that time with Jordy before she decided to, move in a different direction, and I'm really looking forward to being able to pick up where we left off in the days coming.
We've asked what the past week has been like for her, but what has the past week been like for you?
Right. It's been wow. I'm actually driving in my car, and in your car you see your dashboard, you're hooked up to CarPlay, and you see Jordy Bahl's name pop up there, and you're like, whoa. And so I'm like, well, you better answer it. And you know what? It was really, I don't know how long we talked, maybe 15 minutes, but we didn't talk about softball at all. It was really just a moment to reconnect, and I got to tell her that, when she moved in a different direction, there was never one hard feeling from any of our staff. Sorry for the emotion. And that we have always been Jordy Bahl fans, as a person first, as an athlete second, and that never wavered. And so if she was calling me, I was hoping that it wasn't to tell me she was going to Creighton or Omaha, but that she had an interest in Nebraska, and that certainly was what she was calling about, and that she needed to know that she would be returning to a place that is welcoming her with open arms. And so that was the start of it. And then, how on that same dashboard, you see your phone blowing up because she had made her statement, and then it's like from there. I mean, full disclosure, I'll tell on myself. I'm driving back from a funeral that I had attended in Iowa, and I missed my turnoff like 6 times. I used, I think, a whole tank of gas driving back and forth in Iowa. So there was just a lot going on. So I'm kind of telling a little story on myself there, but.
For caliber, who also is from the state and wants to be a Husker, what kind of impact can she have on your program and also the state, softball in the state?
Well, I think we need to start with even bigger than our program, right? Because, she just, the way you heard her, she's tremendous in front of the media. She's a tremendous ambassador for Nebraska. That's the one thing I've always known about Jordy. I've coached a lot of young women that call Nebraska home, and I remember telling our staff when she committed, back when she was an 8th grader, there have been very few that have rivaled how much she's loved her home state, her home city, Papillion. So I just think what she brings from the inside out is really, people talk about generational athletes, but she might be a generational force for the University of Nebraska. And I think one of the biggest things is wherever she goes, she's going to earn that respect and that kind of attention. I think that as a mama bear, I want to make sure we protect her so she can focus on achieving all the goals she wants to achieve as a student athlete here too.
Seeing her career play out over the past couple of years at Oklahoma, just how have you seen her kind of develop, just I guess as a player, just kind of watching from afar over these past few years?
Well, I think she's been on her natural progression. She was so good. She was so good as an 8th grader. That's why I knew of her really early. I remember getting a phone call from her pitching coach, Darren Dubsky, and saying, I've got one that's really different. And he meant that in the most positive way. So, she's just continued to develop. And if you understand her work ethic, you know why she's continued to develop. So her work ethic has not only been in her physical game, but her mental and emotional game. And she was in a great environment at Oklahoma. That championship mindset is real. And I look forward to leaning in and learning from her about what she learned down there. Because if we're constant learners, I'm gonna try to figure out some things that have really helped her along the way. So I think she's just doing what Jordy does, and she keeps growing. And we're really excited to be able to maximize her game. She's a tremendous offensive weapon too. And, even when she came on her visit last week, we didn't talk too much softball. We just kind of, again, reacquainted and tried to take care of some of the other business. But I did ask her one question. I said, can you confirm that you'd like to hit? And then when she posted and she had a bat, I'm like, I think we know. So, I'm just really excited for the entire athlete that she is.
You mentioned what you can learn from her. I asked her a similar question, but what can just mentally someone who's been to the top of the mountain that you're trying to scale, what are the lessons someone can bring to a team like that?
Yeah, I don't think it happens over a day or one conversation. I think it's just going to be felt and infiltrated, within our team in little micro conversations or just, interacting with their teammates. I will tell you, it was really exciting. We came last week, she came on Wednesday, and we were going to have lunch at the training table. And like she said, she not only played with some of these players, but played against many of them. And the ones that are still in town are basically our Nebraska kids. And I don't even know I realized it this deeply, but they all jumped up from the table and went and hugged her. And I'm like, that's not just a hug for a potential prospect, right? That's long-term friendship right there, long-term friendship. And then I was talking to Billy and Brooke's older sister, Nicole, in Kansas City as I was recruiting this weekend, and she said, yeah, Jordy was in my wedding. I'm like, who knew that? So there's just a lot of years and a lot of layers to how already she's been a part of our program in one way or another.
Have you heard from any players who want to transfer here? Has that happened in the last week?
I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but we're still prospecting. Let's just put it that way.
Have you and Trev talked about how many bodies you're going to possibly be able to get in bowling next year?
Trev and I had a meeting yesterday about that very thing, and been meeting with Keith Zimmer, our sport administrator, and I know that there's a plan in place. I think we're working through the details, but what a great problem to have, right? Just so exciting. I know that bowling right now is capacity at 2,500. I know, we're going to have to obviously up that because we want anybody that wants to be in that stadium to be able to fit in that stadium. So we're going to do our best to make sure we can accommodate that.
Talking about how you're going to use her, obviously you're going to pitch her. You talked about her being somebody that wants to hit as well. You use pitchers two ways, as pitchers and hitters more than most. Why is that?
Well, I think I don't know that it's been by design like, yeah, we're going to use a pitcher two-way. I think when you see an athlete and if they have athletic talent on both sides of the ball, then absolutely we're going to utilize that talent. And there's just a long history of that. I'll go back, of course, we could most notably go to Courtney Wallace this year, and we paced her a little bit, but we can go back to Tatum Edwards, and if you recall that 15-inning game against Florida, Tatum started. I think Nate will probably know exactly. She pitched the first 7 or 8 innings. We brought her out. We thought she was fatiguing a little bit. We put her in left field, and then Emily Lockman threw 3 or 4 innings, and then we bring Tatum back in to pitch. All the while, the reason we put her in left field, she was a great athlete, but we couldn't afford to take her bat out of the lineup. I think she was hitting leadoff for us that particular year. So we look at Jordy as I watched her play so much, and I don't know if in high school, I know that they were probably more feared with her on the mound, but nobody wanted her up to bat against them either. In her senior year, she hit 20 home runs, and they were legitimate, like they were getting out of the ballpark. So, she just has that extra competitive fire, and she has that will to win, and it doesn't matter if she's on the mound with the face mask on or if she's in the box with the helmet on. She's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
She said she wants to hit more.
She loves hitting. She loves hitting. So I don't think she's going to argue with that opportunity to be in our lineup, to earn a spot in our lineup.
How much do you hope Jordy being back in the state can kind of propel the girls softball movement in Nebraska, and maybe she can kind of be like the next Jordan Larson, where she really motivates young players?
Yeah. I think that Nebraska softball at the state level, whether it's high school or club ball, is really healthy and growing and vibrant, as you can tell by some of the really quality student athletes that are coming out of Nebraska. But I think the Jordy Bahl effect is real. I know she's so humble and full of humility that she probably doesn't even like me saying that. She'd probably kick me but I think it is really real, and I think that's exciting because, that's what she wants to do. She wants to help grow the game, and she's going to help grow the game, and then it's going to give others a platform to continue to grow the game, because she's going to open so many doors for not only herself to have opportunities to grow the game, but for so many other Nebraska student athletes.
Rhonda, how do you plan to guide and manage a high-profile athlete like her?
Matt Smith is my guy. So I called Matt. I said, Matt, Matt and I have been working together for 20 years. Said, I'm going to need your help here. Had a lot of conversations with Keith Zimmer, our sport administrator, and even when Keith and I met with Trev yesterday, we touched upon it, because that's going to be really important, and we're going to just navigate it day by day.
Anything else for Coach? Okay, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.